Hey everyone, today we're going to take a look at the Cosmic Legions Wal-Torr action figure. As usual, please like, share, comment, subscribe, or even hit the super thanks button. I do appreciate all engagement on my channel. Now this figure is coming to me direct from the 4 Horsemen, sent to me for a review as part of their Summer of Cosmerium event happening this July. So a big thanks to them for giving me this opportunity to look at this figure. I am a big fan of Cosmic Legions and have gone all in on the first 3 waves, but I do not have this one, so I'm eager to have a look at it. The figure is displayed nicely in this window packaging, artwork of the character on the front, and up top of the box we have the 4 Horsemen Cosmic Legions logo, and at the bottom some product information. Down to the side some stripes, which is thematic of the Cosmic Legions line. Rest of the figures in the other waves on the back. And finally, on that last side, we have a description of this special character created as a tribute to Walter for his community efforts in rallying the Mythic Legions and Cosmic Legions fans. So this is a really nice touch from the 4 Horsemen, honoring one of their biggest fans. So now let's go ahead and get this one open. Out of the packaging, the figure is nicely displayed on the plastic tray, which has a second backing tray with all the rest of his accessories. A couple of attachments over here for the compatibility with some of those Mythic Legions figures as well. And finally, a bag of hands. Fantastic touch. Plenty of options to display him with all these couple of hands. I'm going to cover the sculpt and articulation of this figure first, simply because he comes with so many accessories that by the time we put everything on, the sculpting and the articulation on the basic body is probably going to be obscured. But that's not to say the basic body is pretty fantastic by itself. Now most of the sculpt is reused from the Tuck Century, but everything looks so fresh simply because of the fantastic paint applications. The basic body is sculpted full of tech detail, and the paint applications just really elevate every single element to the next level. The overall orange color scheme might come across a little too garish at first, but it really pops. And the contrast of the blacks and grays all over, plus a subtle black wash, really makes this one easy on the eye despite the really bright color scheme. The head sculpt is reused from the Tuck Science Officer, but it continues to look fresh thanks to the new paint scheme. The translucent canopy over here can be removed from the clips on the sides. And it's really nice to see all that texture on the insides of that helmet, and the grey and the red really brings out the different parts and elements of this helmet. Paint is almost impeccably applied, particularly with the small hits of silver for the little parts, like right here on top as well. The subtle black wash really works in bringing out all that little tech detail that is present all over the helmet. All the panels in his armor, from his neck down to his torso, once again also similarly accentuated, thanks to the subtle black wash. I love how the red pops against the rest of the orange armor for that power source in the middle. Very reminiscent of Iron Man style design of armor. The black at the joints works to give you the impression that he's wearing armor plating on top of an inner black suit. Once more, the hits of silver for the rivets on his armor on his arm brings out all these smaller details and pops against the orange. But the best part of the figure for me is the belt. The reds, silvers, blacks, greys on top of the orange, plus that subtle black wash, I think that makes it about 6 to 7 hits of paint just on this simple belt piece. And this really brings the rest of the figure together. Even though it's a reused part, everything still looks really intriguing thanks to the intricate paint job. Every element pops out, even on the back of the belt. And now we move on to the legs. We see the same level of detail. Everything coming together really nicely. Rivets popping with the silver, black for the contrast between the armor plates, and a subtle wash to bring out all that texturing, panel lining, separation. So the 4 Horsemen have a really interesting business model for designing figures, packed full of sculpted detail. So every time they put on a new paint scheme, they just need to color up different parts of the armor differently, and everything looks fantastic and fresh despite a lot of reuse. For articulation, he's got a ball at the top of his neck and a swivel at the bottom. The ball is really tight, but still gives you a decent amount of articulation up and down, and also some sideways wiggle. The ball can be a little tight, so when you swivel his head around, more often it's a combination of swiveling on the ball as well as the swivel at the bottom of the neck. There's a swivel hinge at his shoulders, so it goes all the way around as well as coming out that far. I can look past this figure not having a butterfly joint simply because he's in really intricately sculpted and bulky armor. There's a swivel just above the elbow that works like a bicep swivel, and a functional single hinge elbow getting just about 90 degrees, and that swivel also goes out and in just like a bicep swivel. He's got a swivel at that wrist gauntlet that goes out and in, swivel hinge at the wrist that spins, as well as gets you a decent bit of range inward. Outward is slightly hindered by that wrist gauntlet. The bulky armored torso is kept in one piece by having a functional ball joint at the waist that gets you spinning 360, and also a decent bit of forward crunch and backward bending, coupled with some sideways tilting as well. Pretty decent considering how it's accomplished by just one ball joint, and any gaps are easily covered up by this floating belt piece. He's got a swivel hinge at the hips that function just like ball joints, going out that far, which is more than decent for a dude in armor, and you also get pretty good range forward and backward as well. There's a thigh swivel over here that goes out as well as in. It's a little tight and squeaky, but gets the job done. There's a single hinge knee that gets you pretty decent range, about 90 degrees. Swivel just below that knee's hinge joint that works like a calf swivel, and you can turn it in and out. Another swivel just above that ankle for out and in. Hinge at the ankle as well for a good range upwards and downwards. And finally that ankle pivot that gets you outwards and inwards. So while articulation isn't the Four Horsemen's strongest suit, the whole scheme is definitely functional, sturdy, and durable. Sculpt Paint makes up for any shortfalls in articulation, but with the reputation that they have, I'm quite sure that they will be coming out with some new engineering in future, and I can't wait to see how they could improve the playability and posability of this Cosmic Legions line. Now we're taking a look at his accessories, and he comes with a full mind-boggling sets of hands. Starting with the two sets of gripping hands over here, one set with the hinge that goes up and down, and the other with the hinge that goes in and out. And now we have another two sets of trigger hands, once more with one set with the hinge going up and down and the other with the hinge in and out. We have a set of relaxed hands hinging both in and out, a set of fists that also hinge in and out, and lastly a set of supporting hands with looser grip to support bigger weapons like rifles, and these also hinge in and out. And not to mention that every single hand is fully painted in orange with the silver for the rivets and black wash to bring out the textures in the gloves. Next he comes with this rig that fits over the back and the top of him. This rig is also similarly well sculpted and painted. Silver for the little rivet details, sculpted work once again brought out by the dark wash for the panels, and a set of thrusters down the back. Now this rig is also accompanied by this rim that fits over it. This rim is also similarly well painted and sculpted, the gray contrasting with the orange of his armor, and the silver paint bringing out all the details even on the inside, which is really impressive. All those couple of displays and knobs, and this attention to detail really elevates this figure. The rim also comes with a clear canopy piece, and this will be fitted over the top. Now these two pieces will fit onto the figure quite snugly, so I first like to heat them up so that they're more pliable before I fit them on. And to prepare the figure for fitting on the rig, I also first like to pop that head off. Now this is warm and slightly softer and more pliable. Slide the front two prongs over the armor, and that peg on the back goes into that hole on the main part of the body. It should be a very snug fit. Now we're going to fit on the rim, looking at the curved end on the back, as well as these two slots on either side, and this will sit nicely on top of the rig like so. Before you fit those slots in, eyeball the front where there are these two pointed parts, and you want to make sure these go over the front two prongs, and then you fit them on the slots on the side, so that one's fitted in on the right side, and we do the same for the left side. I'm quite amazed at how all the pieces fit so nicely together. So the only hint about them being separate pieces is this minor gap down the front, but otherwise it looks really cohesive and fantastic put together. And now we have this alternate head of a skull, missing a tooth, couple of cracks all the way around the top, and also an articulated jaw. This skull is reused from the Mythic Legion's Malleus figure, but this is the first time it is appearing on the Cosmic Legions line. Now this one pops nicely onto the ball joint. The fit is really snug, so the whole neck tends to swivel at the bottom swivel instead. The canopy has two knobs on the front and the back that go into slots on the rim. And this is a really cool look for a skeleton in an armored spacesuit. Now he comes with a holographic map effect, and this is cast in a translucent blue plastic, showing off a couple of planets in that solar system. Now this holographic map effect pegs into either port on his forearms, and it's a great way for you to display him navigating his way through the galaxy. His weapons all come painted in red, and while they look a little flat at first, on closer inspection you can see the metallic reds for the detail on the sides. Every weapon has the same treatment of metallic red paint, shows the attention to detail on his weapons, adding a good contrast and making them look interesting. The smaller blaster plugs into the port on his forearm, and you should have no trouble getting him to grip his pistol, considering the number of different types of hands that we receive with this figure. The pistol also has a hole on the side, plugging in one of the translucent pegs that we also get with this figure. This now lets him store his pistol on one of these ports on the back of his belt, so he goes hands-free with the pistol. Bringing me to the other port right here. This is what I'll be using to plug this black flexible tube, one end going into the belt over here, and the other plugging into the other unused port on his left forearm. I struggled a little bit to put the tube into this port because the tube is really flexible, but with a little bit of heat applied to this gauntlet, I was able to wiggle it in, and now it's a very snug fit. So this tube is another nice addition, an accessory to add some variation to the look of this figure. And I also have to show how this figure looks, holding the rifle with both his hands, the one with the larger grip supporting the barrel on the front, and the trigger finger holding onto the pistol grip. He looks great holding onto this rifle with the supporting pistol stored down the back. But let's not forget one of his defensive weapons, which brings me to the final accessory in this set. It is a shield, once again fully painted with matching colors to the figure like the orange, red, blacks, grays, and especially the very nice silver paint that accentuates the outline of the shield. Despite the smooth, clean edges of the shield, it's got nice detail for the rivets, the lights down the sides, and that nice viewing port on the top. Now the back of the shield is painted more basic with a flat gray. And using the same system as Mythic Legions, it comes with a handle that plugs into the back. Now the plug over here is very tight, so I'd like to put on a little bit of silicone grease to make sure that this handle can swivel along the peg nicely. And so now putting that shield into his left gripping hand, he wields that shield confidently moving into battle, with that rifle also providing him that firepower. So to me this looks fantastic. And finally that swivel at the handle for the shield is very useful. You can swing it up and then spin his wrist forward, so he looks just as great standing vanilla with the symbol on the shield also being held upright. And considering all the accessories that he comes with, most of them can store onto his body, of course except for the alternate head, the whole bunch of hands, and that holographic map. So that to me is really pleasing to be able to have this figure hold most of his accessories. Size-wise, he stands at about 6.5 inches to the top of the skull and 7 inches to the top of the dome of his helmet, and naturally he scales well with all the other Cosmic Legions on the same typical armored body look. He also scales well with a smaller female body and a larger deluxe figure in the Cosmic Legions line. He doesn't look out of place size-wise with Mythic Legions, also produced and sculpted by the 4 Horsemen. For comparisons with other lines, here he is with Star Wars Black Series. Scaling great with Marvel Legends as well, though I will say the level of detail on him far outshines Marvel Legends. He's slightly larger than average when compared with G.I. Joe Classified Series. And finally here he is with Storm Collectibles Mortal Kombat. I've been a big fan of the 4 Horsemen's work and followed them since the early 2000s. I consider them one of the grandfathers of modern action figures, and I mean that in the best possible way. I'm all in on the first 3 waves of Cosmic Legions, so I'm grateful that they sent along a copy of Wal-Torr that I missed out on for this review. Wal-Torr, Cosmic Legions, and Mythic Legions in general have all the 4 Horsemen trademarks of fantastic sculpting, amazing paintwork, and thoughtful accessories. I like to see the 4 Horsemen continue to innovate on the engineering and articulation moving forward. Once again, thank you to the 4 Horsemen for making this review possible. Please like and share this video, let me know what you think in the comments below, subscribe to my channel, or even hit that super thanks button. Thanks for watching, take care, and stay safe.